The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast, Yankees Week in Review. Listen in throughout the baseball season as we will go over the week that was for the New York Yankees. We'll talk about what went right, what went wrong this week, this day in Yankees history, Yankees birthdays, and predictions of what the Bronx Bombers record will be at the end of the upcoming week. It's 1420 Yankees Week in Review, the Yankee Tavern North, brought to you by SeatGeek. So put on your pinstripes, grab a beer, and let's get in. Little bit overdue here. The New York Yankees season in review 1420 style. I'm joined by the Long Island prognosticator, the Nostradamus of Long Island areas, Jim, the fan in the van. I think he's still a Yankee fan, but we'll ask him right now. Jim, how you doing?
Doing a lot better than the Yankees, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, I can't be that guy who changes fandom because your team's friggin' shit in the bed year in and year out for over a decade. You know, you pick a team, you stick with the team. That through the ups, the downs. It's it's one of those marriages you just can't get a divorce from. Yeah, it's one of those abusive wives. I think we're beating us up, let alone us beating them up. But for some unknown reason, 40-some days since the season ended for the Yankees, both Hal and Cashman decided to flap their gums this week. We're talking, I don't even know what they were talking about. We'll get into Steinbrenner a little bit later. But let's start with Cashman. He kind of got a little bit ornery with the reporters that were sitting there, and he's saying he was swearing, which was like kind of a bad look. I mean, you and I swear all the time, but when you're the head of the New York Yankees, you probably should watch your P's and Q's a little bit. But basically he said, I think we're pretty fucking good. And the thing is, you're not. You were 82-80 this year. You're not pretty good. Like, pretty good gets you one more game in the playoffs. We talked about it before, that because you make a wild card round, you get two more games and you're done. I don't think that makes you a pretty good team. What's your thoughts on that? Pretty good. What the fuck was he smoking before that press conference? Because I want some of that, because they were pretty mediocre at best. Mm-hmm. And there's no way this team was pretty good, because pretty good is getting you a division championship bye in the first round without having to play the wild card, and then playing maybe Houston or whoever else. But that didn't happen. No playoffs, no nothing. Early end to the season. That's not pretty good. Again, I don't know what Cashman's smoking, what he's looking at, what analytics he's reading, but it's not what we're seeing. It's not what we've seen for 162 games. It was pretty much a disaster, even worse than mediocre. It was disastrous at every level. The only shining stars you had were Gerrit Cole. That was it.
I was just it's like you read my mind there, Jim. It's you had Gerrit Cole, who was going to win the Cy Young. No, there's no getting around that. And he's finally, he's one of those guys who, whatever they're paying him, $30 million a year, whatever it is. I don't really care, because it's something I will never understand how much money that actually is. But you're paying a guy to do what he did, and it finally came to fruition last year with Cole. And you think if they didn't have Cole and his 16 wins, whatever he ended up with, and the quality start after quality start and everything else, because wins, they don't really add up very much anymore, because they get taken out of the game so early, so much different nowadays. But if they didn't have Cole, but they do, if they didn't have Cole, how much worse would this team have been? Because they only finished a couple of games above the Red Sox. They would have been a last place team in the American League East.
They absolutely would have been a last place team without Gerrit Cole, because you had injury after injury, and the next guy to step up couldn't step up. And Cole is the only guy you knew every fifth game you, in essence, could rely on him to give you 5, 6, possibly even 7 good innings. But the other problem was, when he's giving you quality starts, the offense is shit in the bed. So
it's crazy to think that a team that's the Bronx Bombers, as they're called, you got the short porch out in right field, for a team year in, year out to not have many quality left-handed bats in their lineup. And you and I I think by anybody who watches baseball think, okay, if you have more left-handed bats in your lineup, you probably have a better chance of hitting some home runs with that short porch. Why can't the Yankees go out and find some left-handed bats to bolster that lineup, to hit some more home runs? And we'll get into another thing of that, but they don't get guys on base. And you say injuries too. Well, let's get into that. Why does it seem like that when the Yankees get guys, I think you've talked about it before, when they get guys from trades or free agency or whatever it is, I'm going to talk about both, they always seem to get hurt or they come in as damaged goods.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it. CC Sabathia was a prime example. Granted, he gave us some good years. We got a World Series out of it. But he came in with how many friggin' innings on that arm as it is, throwing complete game after complete game after complete game. And then he was hurt from a time being. We get Carlos Rodon. How do you not know he has this back issue? Like, are they looking at the full medical report? You do a physical before you sign a guy, right? So obviously they either misread the physical or they didn't give him one and they just said, here's X amount of years and 160 plus million. And if you're hurt, fuck it, who cares? That's kind of, I think, how this is working out in the Bronx as far as signing guys and bringing them in. It's like, well, you know what? The fans want big names. And if you're damaged, we don't care. We'll just bring you in and we'll appease the fan that way. But the fans want big names, but the fans also want wins. They want championships. They want playoff appearances. We want October baseball. You think anybody wanted to watch Rangers Diamondbacks in the World Series? No. Nobody wanted to watch.
I first want to watch that was you to make sure your prediction was right from back in August. One of those things.
I literally watched not one inning of baseball playoff. None at all. Because I got asked, why am I not discussing it? And I flat out said, because once the Yankees are out, I couldn't watch it.
Yeah, I watched the first game of the World Series. Like, it was a really good baseball game. And after that, my interest waned quite a bit. They're just not two sexy teams at all that you want to watch. Yeah, and you talk about guys like Rodon came in, but the one that really, and everybody was looking for it. And maybe that's as dumb as this sounds. The one guy was Frankie Montas, who basically hasn't thrown an inning for the Yankees at all. They got him, and he didn't pitch it at all, didn't do a damn thing. And then Cashman can come back and say, well, we're just giving the fans what they wanted. The name was out there. Well, Cashman, if you're so smart, why are you listening to us idiots? Like, if you're this smart savant, the baseball savant that you claim you are, why are you listening to the fans who are saying, well, we're giving the fans what they want. This is what they say they wanted, so we went out and got it.
Yeah, as far as Frankie Montas and the fact that he's willing to even bring him back, why? What has this guy offered us? What has he done? We trade for him. He gets hurt, in the first game he pitches? He's out the rest of that year. He's out this whole year. Why are we going to bring him back? To possibly see what he's got? We've already seen what he's got. He's got nothing. Let him walk. Let him walk. Bring in somebody else. You have money to spend. It's not like we're the Oakland Athletics who don't spend money because we don't have it. We have money. And we've discussed it at length where money's not going to fix the whole problem with the Yankees. You have to bring in the right pieces to fit this team. Cashman's not the guy to figure that out. You know who is the guy to figure that out? The guy who built the 16 Cubs World Series team. Theo Epstein, bring him in and get Cashman out and get Boone out. And it's because we're going to have the same discussion. I've already said it at length before. We're going to have the same discussion in 2024. So we might as well just put repeats of all our podcast episodes out and take like a 3-month break from Yankee talk at that point.
That might be a little easier on the soul when it comes down to it. There, Jim's good idea. You look at Cashman and his legacy, I guess you could say that. Like, they got the 09 World Series, but that's all of a sudden that's 14 years ago. So if you take that one out, which they went out and spent a lot of money with AJ Burnett and CC Sabathia and Mark Teixeira and on and on they went out and spent a lot of money that year and did what the Yankee haters saying about going out and buying a World Series. And you could say, yeah, they went out and bought that World Series. But basically, when you only have the one World Championship in 23 years, let's go back even further. You have one World Championship in 23 years, one World Series appearance in those 23 years. What is your legacy that you're bragging about, Cashman? What are you actually bringing to the table? What have you seen the Steinbrenners do? How do you are still employed? Okay, yeah, you're great. You're above 500 every year. Who cares? Who cares? That doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. You've won one world championship in 23 years, and I'm not a dumb Yankee fan thinking that you're going to win every year, because that's not how sports works. It just is not how it all comes together. But for Cashman to come out and be this, I'm the greatest, and the attitude he showed the other day, and yes, it was towards a reporter, I get that, but the snippiness he had towards that reporter, talking about how great the Yankees are, saying that they're good, my resume speaks for itself. The way he was speaking to that reporter, that's the way he was speaking to Yankee fans, because that these are the same questions that this reporter was having towards the the Yankee fans have towards Cashman. If they could, like, if I had a chance to talk to this guy, that's the same thing I'd be asking him. So if he's going to be talking to a reporter that way, he's talking that way to the Yankee fan base as well. And I think it's absolutely, I don't know if he got his dick slapped later on by Steinbrenner or what, because it wasn't a professional look by Cashman at all. And I thought it was a pretty horseshit move by Brian Cashman.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And, I wish I could have been a reporter in that room, because the questions I would have been asked, if you had told me, if Cashman told me the Yankees are pretty fucking good, I think we all know where that whole press conference is going to go. It's going to go from 0 to 100 real quick. Like you would say, fuck around and find out, because, Cashman, you asshole. You cannot stand there as a GM and brag about a team that's not good. I hate to say it. The Yankees are not good. The evil empire, to me, died when George died. That whole way of baseball died when George went 6 feet deep. So did the evil empire. So did the whole blueprint. It all just went when the casket dropped, the evil empire dropped, the blueprint dropped. Hal has no idea what he's doing. Hal's talking about doing an audit. Here, I could do the Yankee audit for you right now. We suck. Stanton needs to go. Trade Gleyber Torres. Let Severino walk. Don't bring him back. Get rid of Montas. You keep Michael King as a starter, because he was pretty good at that. You utilize the farm system. Don't trade everybody in the world for what you think you're going to get in Juan Soto, because that's what everybody's clamoring for now, is Juan Soto. And you're going to have to give up a boatload. And I don't know if I'm willing to do that. If I was the GM, I wouldn't be giving up half my future for one guy. I'm not, especially for 1 year. And then you're not going to pay him, because he's going to want Manny Machado type money. And if he doesn't produce the way we think he would produce in New York, that becomes a problem where it's okay. We traded, say, 7, 8 farm pieces away that could help us in the future for one guy who is now not staying. And these are the things that Cashman has to look at when he's making these, like, how can we improve this team? Who can we bring in? He has to look at it in a way like, well, I can't trade Jason Dominguez because before he got hurt, he was doing this. So let's see if he can continue on this path once he's healthy. We can't get rid of Austin Wells because, unfortunately, he's the better option out of all the catchers that we have. So you don't have to bring in the sexiest names, because we've seen teams win without the biggest names, without having to throw money at them all. I mean, granted, you look at the Diamondbacks, look at their payroll. They made it to the friggin' World Series. And who do they have? They got no sexy name out there other than Kettle Marte. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all they got.
It's absolutely nuts that the people just say, throw money at it. Steinbrenner's basically come out and said, he said, you don't have to spend $300 million to win a World Series. And it's been proven. And that's the one thing I don't understand about Steinbrenner is he talks out of both sides of his mouth to the fan base, because he's saying, okay, don't do this, but then he goes out and spends money anyways. He can't be a happy camper at all with the billions of dollars he's spent over the years on a payroll for one championship in 23 years. There is no way that Steinbrenner is happy with that performance, and how Cashman is still allowed on a year-in, year-out basis to just run carte blanche and do whatever he wants. Cashman this week, he was defending going out and getting Joey Gallo. He was an absolute disaster, and then he went out and defended it. And I liked when they got Sonny Gray as well. I do, but he was defending, saying, "Well, these guys were successful on other teams." Okay, they were successful on other teams. So what is wrong with the coaching department and the analytics department with your team that you put together, Cashman? You're the problem. These guys were all hired by you in one way or another. So these guys, you say they were successful on other teams now. These guys were on playoff teams. Okay, why weren't they good in New York then? Are pinstripes that heavy? Like, I don't understand how Cashman defends these moves. Then defending my friend and yours, Josh Donaldson, the nozzle of the year, defending that move with a bitter end, saying it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Well, why? Why is it always just doesn't work out in New York? You went out and you got rid of your hitting coach and went and hired Sean Casey, a fucking podcast host, to be a guy. He's not coming back next year. He's like, what's the point here? This isn't working. Steinbrenner's basically come out and said that him and Judge, he actually said that him and Judge are going to be the guys to be looking into how to improve this team. It's the thing about him, like Cashman isn't a part of the thing by the way Steinbrenner's talking. So what does Cashman have on Steinbrenner?
I would love to know, but I mean, I think part of the issue is why like a guy like Joey Gallo, Sonny Gray, even Giancarlo Stanton really don't, or even Josh Donaldson, even though Donaldson's older than all three of them, why they couldn't produce here. New York is just it's a big market where it's all under the microscope and the pressure is always there to produce. And when you don't, you have guys in the sports media like Michael Kay on ESPN, Don LaGreca. I'm not going to name the other douche that they got with him because he should just stick to Hot 97, the rap station, and WWE bullshit. You have the guys at WFAN, Boomer and Gio, even though Gio don't know nothing. I'd rather listen to Boomer Esiason bash the Yankees than friggin' Greg Giannotti ever do it. But you have all these guys in the New York sports media that focus on, if Joey Gallo was 0 for 3, this is what they're focusing on. It doesn't matter about anything else. If Sonny Gray pitched an abysmal first inning, that's all they're focusing on for that game. And it's something where with these guys, if they go to a smaller market, less pressure, they can actually play to their worth and value. It is very hard to play in New York, whether it's the Yankees, whether it's the Mets, or in hockey, the Rangers, Islanders, basketball with the Knicks and the Nets, football with the Buffalo Bills, because I'm not going to say the Giants and the Jets because they play in New Jersey. So, which I can't stand that, but it's also the moves that have been made where it's like, I liked when they got Joey Gallo because he had the numbers in Texas. It just didn't, translate over into New York because you have all these fans in attendance. You strike out, they're booing you, and it gets to you, and it's hard for some guys to block it out. Like a guy like Aaron Judge could block it out. A guy like Garrett Cole can block it out. Guys like Gallo, Sonny Gray, they can't block it out. And that's why a guy like Zach Greinke, when he's been a free agent, has never come to New York because he values being on a smaller market team because the pressure isn't there. So he doesn't have to deal with being the guy, one, and anytime he has a shit game, he doesn't have to deal with the press being all over him and everybody in that market sports radio region trashing him to no end. Because in New York, that's all we do is we praise you when you're good and we bash you when you're bad. So it's 95% Cashman's fault to why these guys don't pan out, and it's 5% to their own mentalness as well. At least in my opinion. Others can see it differently, but
the big news that came out of the end of the season there was basically they're going to have an external audit. An external audit. Someone's going to come in. They're going to look at all the ins and outs of the Yankee franchise, right from the minor league system right on through what's been working and what hasn't been working. And this external audit, they're going to have other people come in. We know who hired the guy. The guy who's or hired the company. He's in charge of the analytics department that everybody's bashing. And because everybody uses analytics. We talked about it a lot that the analytics are being used 100% by every team throughout baseball. But if you're your guys aren't working the right numbers, numbers lie. And numbers, you can twist and turn. The nerds can twist and turn numbers any which way they want to. But they can't get a feel of the game. They can't get, like you were saying, how guys play in front of big crowds at Yankee Stadium, how they handle the media. The numbers can't tell you that. There's no way on a spreadsheet that you're going to have when you have Joey from the Bronx and Petey from Long Island yelling at you in the stands, that the numbers can't tell you that. And pinstripes, yes, they are heavy 100%, but this external audit was supposed to fix all the things in Yankee land. It was brought up this week that the head of the analytics department was the guy who hired this analytics review. So what are you doing? You're just going to recycle the exact same thing and do the exact same thing over and over again. And then also this week, when you had Cashman bragging about these guys that he traded for that are playing the playoffs, he never once brought up Jordan Montgomery, who's going to get paid now, and everything else. And Montgomery was great, and now they traded him for Bader, and he's gone already. So, those are Cashman moves. He didn't say a damn thing about Montgomery. You're talking about Sonny Gray, who hasn't been here in 3.5 years. Right, like it's mind blowing to me that Cashman has this carte blanche to do whatever he wants, and then when you have a guy who's beloved in the Bronx and will forever be, Derek Jeter does not like Cashman. It's well known. It's been around for a long time. For all intent and purpose, from what you read and what you see, the way that Cashman handled the Judge contract. By letting the numbers out, what it was going to be, and saying this and saying that and everything else. And it was Steinbrenner who had to get that deal done for Aaron Judge this time last year before he became Arson Judge and became a Giant. Cashman's not well liked by anybody, and why he is allowed to make these deals, what handshake agreement he had with George before George passed away, and it's been 13 years. It's been 13 freaking years since George's been gone. So Cashman and his one world championship in 23 years, one World Series appearance, not even giving the team a chance to do anything. And people can talk about, the Astros 17 and 19, they were talking about having cheated. But you don't know if they would even have won the World Series against the Dodgers in 2017. So that's a bunch of just bullshit speak. Cashman is a problem, and I don't understand why he still has carte blanche to run this organization.
I've got not a clue, and you're going to have the analytics department hire an outside. It's real simple. Here's what's not working. Ready? They could hire you and me to do this external audit, and I can tell you right now, it's Cashman at the head that's not working. That's one, because of these horrific moves he's made. And now when you talk about, you bring up Jordan Montgomery, which he was decent here. He had his good moments. He had his bad moments. It's to be expected. But then he goes to Texas, and he's like this 2023 version of like Sandy fucking Koufax. Okay. The guy's literally unhittable. You traded him for Harrison Bader, who, when he was healthy for us, wasn't bad. I'll give him that. But his injuries is what plagued us.
Couldn't stay healthy. They brought him over when he was hurt.
Yeah. And now, if you want Montgomery back, it's going to cost you a ton of money. A guy, again, you already had that you didn't have to pay a lot to. Now, if you want to bring him back, you have to pay him at least. Right now, his value, if I had to guess, he would probably get around a 5-6 year deal. He would probably get almost a Carlos Rondon type deal right now.
He'll get $130 million.
Yeah, and he'll get it. He'll get it.
Someone will pay for it. Left-handed pitchers, they'll get it. You had one thing that made me laugh this week, and it made me smile a little bit, because I'm a bunt guy. I'm like old school baseball, move runners around, put the ball in play, because striking out doesn't do anybody any good ever.
No.
Like anybody who tells me that striking out and swinging for the fences is a better idea than just putting the ball in play, I think they're absolutely ridiculous. I understand it's hard to put 2 or 3 hits in a row together to score some runs, but I get it. But for Steinbrenner to come out this week and said, and this was groundbreaking news from Hal Steinbrenner. We're going to bunt more next year. That's your solution to the problem of the New York Yankees. We're going to bunt more. Like, we're going to bunt. That's how we're going to improve our team. We're going to bunt. I was talking with our manager, Aaron Boone, and Boone's coming back next year, which I'm not totally against, but let's just, Judge likes him, so you got to keep your superstar happy. Cole likes him, so you got to keep those guys happy. But how you're going to win a World Series, and this is what your thought process. This is how broken this team is. We're gonna bunt. Like I don't understand it. And I agree with it, but that is your groundbreaking solution. Keep that internally. You sound like a clown show. A little league team. That's what they. You know what? We're gonna bunt more next year. That's when dads sit around the bar after a little league team is done and say, you know what? Next year when we have little Johnny's T-ball team or whatever, their underhand pitch or coach pitch, we're gonna bunt. You know, we're gonna teach you kids how to bunt next year. Like that's a clown show.
Listen, I'm for small ball because if you have a guy that's not hitting, an easy squeeze bunt might break that spell a bit, but to sit there in a press conference and you're going to say this fixes the problem, bunting is going to fix the problem. Obviously, Steinbrenner's blind to every other problem around him. It's like he's standing in a circle, and you have all these problems surrounding you, and you found the easiest avenue out of it just by saying, "Well, we're going to bunt more," and bringing Boone back. I mean, Boone gets a lot of criticism. I've criticized him a lot, and maybe part of why I'm okay with Boone coming back is you can't put this all on Boone when he's playing the cards he's dealt. It's like he's going to the Texas Hold'em table, and Cashman's giving him this horrible hand to play with when he's trading for Donaldson. He's bringing guys like Frankie Montas in. What do you want Boone to do when these guys aren't healthy or not producing? He can't control the injuries. I mean, he can control the play on the field, but he can't control the moves made above him. So I'm fine with bringing him back for one more year. But if it's the same result, then you both got to listen. I don't think they should have brought Cashman back this year. Fans were against bringing Jeter in, but I think if you brought Jeter in with actual money, unlike in his Miami situation, you might be surprised what Jeter could actually do. And if you were going to get rid of Boone as well, I wouldn't have been opposed to bringing in Mattingly as a manager because he's not that bad of a manager. People want to bash him, but I would give him a shot.
I think that what the Yankees really need to do is and you don't want to see go back to well and everything else because the core four and blah blah blah, but it can't hurt. Like it can't hurt. They brought Pettit in as an advisor, and he's one of the guys that Steinbrenner actually went to, and then Steinbrenner asked. He asked, I think he actually went to Nick Swisher as well, asking him for some reason Swisher's opinion matters, but they're talking about if they should bring back Boone, and they said yeah, and Pettit said yeah, and Swisher said yeah. So it doesn't hurt to have that kind of actual baseball guys and going to them, and then other than the bunt thing. So bringing back Boone isn't the worst idea. Like they went into this season, and Volpe turned out to be a good player, won the Gold Glove. And I don't know if anybody even cares about Gold Gloves anymore, but he won a Gold Glove, had a decent year at the bat or with the bat, but now they're going in again without a third baseman and again without a left fielder, and you had a situation last year where everybody was a little bit scared about what IKF did, but he turned out to be a serviceable guy. He was a utility guy, platoon guy throughout the season. He turned out to be not bad. But you know what? He's gone. He's a free agent. He ain't coming back. He's not going to. He's going to get paid by somebody else, and they're going to. I know you can't keep just reloading with free agents. You want to try to build from within because that's what the Yankees actually did when they were successful. But they got to do something because their farm system hasn't worked. It has not worked at all. Like the guys they bring up, they play for a little bit. Yeah, this guy's not very good, so they trade him away. Yeah, this guy's okay, then they trade him away. They just don't seem to. They hold on to guys for too long. Like Severino, they held on for too long. They probably could have traded him away. They held on to Gary Sanchez for too long. Got nothing for him. Andujar, he had a good year and a half, good 2 years, and you could kind of see him waning a little bit. They held on to him and got nothing for these guys, and they never ever do anything. And that's on Cashman. And like the team is. The team isn't good. The team just isn't good right now, and anybody who thinks that they are, they're missing out because these other teams are so far and away better than the Yankees right now, and their record showed exactly who they are. And it's years of just being mediocre. And we say it all the time on our show: when you're mediocre for a long time, eventually it catches up to you. Because mediocrity brings mediocrity, and if you're not winning, and the days of players just getting their wanting to be Yankees because the big payday was there. Those days are gone because every team goes up, not every team, but there's a lot of teams that go out and spend a lot of money now. And the sexy place to go and getting paid was if you became a Yankee, you made it because you were going to get a lot of money. Now every team makes a lot of money, and these guys all have a lot of money going in.
Yeah, I mean, you see big name free agents now. They're going all the way up to, Toronto, or they're going to San Diego, or they're going to Texas even. I mean, you never seen that in the past where, like, would you ever expect, I mean, you want to go back, would you ever expect Mark Teixeira to actually go to, say, the Marlins even free agents are willing to go to? I mean, it's gotten that bad when the Yankees are not on your list of teams that you would want to sign to, because it's just going to be this archaic system of doing things. Like, if you're a guy like me who likes to keep all his facial hair, you got to shave it off, which, by the way, get rid of that shit. It's so archaic. Who cares if the guy wants to go out there and look like fucking Johnny Damon when he was with the Red Sox and he looked like the Geico caveman? I don't give a shit. As long as you're producing, that's what matters. As long as there's wins, that's all that matters. As long as there's playoff appearances, that's all that matters. World Series comes out of it, that's all that matters. I don't care if you come out there shaved like a fucking newborn's ass. I don't care. Cashman's got to break away from this archaic system and just oh God, just talking about Cashman makes me want to vomit all over again.
No, I agree with the facial hair thing. So you look at like every team that got like there's that one guy on the Phillies. I think that's a little extreme with the greasy hair and the greasy beard. Now that's a little extreme.
Oh, Brandon Marsh.
Yeah, I think that one's a little like, dude, here's some Head and Shoulders. Go wash yourself up a little bit. I do think that's got to change a little bit, because you're gonna have like with Bryce Harper, what he had to shave to not bring a Harper in, that which he said they never even gave me an offer. Like, he was willing to go there. And Harper, look what he's been doing.
Yeah.
Like, look what Harper's been doing with the Phillies. Yes, they came up short again this season, but Harper's been the guy for the Phillies. He's rallied that team around him, and he's been a leader that this team has needed. Because Judge he's a leader, and they named him the captain and blah, blah, blah. But Judge isn't the kind of raw guy that a guy like Harper is that can rally a team around him. Like Judge, he just leads by example. He's quietly leads a team. He doesn't jump up and down and everything else. And he's not a vocal kind of a guy. Whereas a guy like Harper, who was willing to come to the Yankees, they never even gave him an offer.
Yeah. And the saddest part is in all of that is, like Cashman's thing was, well, Harper couldn't play first base. What's Harper doing in Philly now?
That's what he's doing.
He's playing first base. So, because like even when Rizzo went down and you didn't know that he had post-concussion syndrome, right there, Harper could have filled in at first base for the rest of the year, and you don't lose any of that offensive output. But this is Cashman. This is what we're doing.
That goes back to what we were talking about earlier on about the training department, the athletic department, whatever it may be, the medical staff, how they mishandled that Rizzo situation right from the get-go. How he played for about a month with the concussion, and that's never a good thing. Because now what we know about brain injuries and everything else, and it more and more came from baseball or from football and hockey, obviously, than baseball. But for Rizzo to be allowed to play for as long as he did with the concussion, and he wasn't right, and you don't know if he's coming back next year or how effective he's going to be next year. For the medical team to not know what was going on there, there's something missing with that medical staff. And Jim, what's your thoughts on that? Like, there's something really messed up there, really messed up, and that's organizational. That has nothing to do with the players. That is an organizational flaw that they've had, and like you said earlier on, checking these guys for back injuries and bad arms before they even sign contracts. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's one of those. I don't know if they just like hire these guys straight out of medical school, where their degrees, like where the seal of approval, like, hey, you could do this in the medical field, where the stamp is still fresh. I have no idea, but how is it like when you look at the NFL, how they handle concussions, right? Obviously, you have a concussion protocol. Why doesn't Major League Baseball have that? Why don't they have that? Because had they had that, Rizzo would have been protected, and he wouldn't have had to felt like he had to play. And I can't say you could fully blame the medical staff because Rizzo's got to say something earlier too. He's got to be like, listen, I'm not feeling right, guys. I shouldn't be out there. He's got to go to Cashman. Even if he's got to bypass all of them and go straight to Hal and knock on his little bronze door and say, listen, I can't play. I'm fucked up. I wake up every morning and I feel like I downed like half a bottle of friggin' Jameson and I'm waking up feeling hungover, but I didn't drink it all. Something there's got to be done. And so it's kind of, they go hand in hand where, as far as the Rizzo situation, the Rondon situation is clearly on the medical staff. Like, how do you not know this guy didn't have something wrong? Like, what does this physical consist of? Is it like when we played sports and we had to do sports physicals for high school and all this, you just go in the nurse's office and it's just, all right, drop your drawers and they cup your balls, cough. Okay, you're fine. Is that the physical? Because if so, I could pass it right now.
I might have trouble with that with someone grabbing my balls and trying to cough. I don't know if I could do that anymore. One of those things, but yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy. And then you go ahead to 2024, and this team, they don't really, because if Rizzo, you don't know how he's going to be. So right at first base, you don't know what you got. Second base, you don't know what you got because they're talking about trading Torres because he's a free agent at the end of next season. So, and he was one of their best hitters last year. So do you trade Torres and what are you going to get back for him? You don't know, right? So then you got at shortstop, you got Volpe, who's shown that he can play, but is he going to take a step back? Because a lot of times when guys have a good rookie season, they get the sophomore slump. They don't have a third baseman who's playing left field, center field. What do you like? They're for $300 million or 275, whatever they're spending. To me, they got a couple of pitchers. Like, is Cortez going to come back have a better year? I hope so, because it couldn't be worse.
Yeah.
You have Garrett Cole and you have Aaron Judge and a bunch of pieces, and that's it. So the 82 and 80 that they were last year, it ain't looking like they're going to improve it for next year.
No, and the Garrett Cole situation, Cashman better hope that he finds all the right pieces, because if this is the same result in 2024, who's blaming Garrett Cole for opting out? You have Yankee fans all over Twitter saying he won't opt out. If I'm Garrett Cole, yeah, you paid me all this money. It's nice, but I came here to win championships. And if I can opt out and go back to, say, Houston to do it, then that's where I'm going. Then that's what I'm doing if I'm Garrett Cole. I'm opting out because you're wasting right now with what the Yankees have. You are wasting the prime of Garrett Cole. You are wasting the prime of Aaron Judge. Even if they re-sign Gleyber Torres, you will then be wasting his prime. And if you trade Gleyber Torres, I keep seeing reports to Boston for friggin' Alex Verdugo. First off, do not trade in the division. That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen or heard of in my life. And if Cashman does that, trade him within the NL to a team where you could get more. Why trade him to Boston, the most hated rival in the AL East? Why do it?
I'm not a big I think he's a bit of an idiot, and his chains and the things and the stuff. He just rubs me the wrong way. Maybe that's the old guy, and get off my lawn with all your stupid shit that you got going on all the time. But it's just I'm not a Verdugo guy, and I quite like Gleyber Torres. Like he looks lazy because I think he's a really smooth player, like defensively.
Yeah.
Like and he can hit. Right, he's like Robinson Cano. Cano didn't run the bases very hard, but I think he's so good that he looks like he's not playing hard and playing second base. It's not a far throw and everything else. But I quite like Cano. But I like, do they trade him? Because if you're not going to win, you might as well. Because once again, all you're doing is you're wasting the primes of these guys' career. And with getting back to Judge and getting back to Cole, they have more money right now than they've ever thought they'd ever have. Cole's probably, once he wins the Cy Young this year, he's probably solidified himself as going to the Hall of Fame. He's one of those guys. Judge needs to have a couple of good years and go out and get himself in the Hall of Fame. He might already, once he hits a few more home runs, because he's not going to hit 62 ever again. It's only ever been done once. But if he can go out and hit 50 a couple of times, and then he's going to the Hall of Fame. What these guys want, they want championships, because when you go in the Hall of Fame, it'll say all your stats. But at the bottom, it'll say one-time World Series champion, two-time World Series champion, and these guys, that's what they want to solidify their legacy, I guess you could say, right? And just because you're rich, there's lots of rich people. There's lots of them.
Yep.
Wish I was one of them. It's one of those things. So these guys want to win, especially when you get that elite level like Cole and Judge are. And like you nailed it 100%. You're completely wasting the primes of these guys' career, because you're going to see the arc of the curve soon with these guys, right? Eventually, you get to the back end of these contracts, and they're not as good as they once were. Injuries with Judge have already happened, and he's going to get to a point where he isn't going to be able, because you get paid that big contract. You get paid for the first 3 or 4 years of it, and then the back end, you're like, well, that we paid him for what he did, not for what he's going to do anymore. And Judge only has 2 to 3 years that he's going to be the guy that everybody's looking out for.
My thing is, like, going back to Glaber, if you're going to trade him, you do it now because his value is at the highest it's ever been.
100%.
If you're going to keep him, though, then you don't overpay him, but you don't underpay him. And yeah, he does look lazy. He does have that Cano feel to him, except Cano had a little more pop in the bat fast because he also took a little extra pop in the ass with a needle. There, yeah. But he was a little juiced up. But with Torres, he's one of those. He's I wouldn't say he's like a fine-tuned player, but he's one of those guys that if you can keep him and he could be an integral part of winning a World Series, then you got to pay him kind of middle of the road. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to giving Gleyber Torres like a 4-year, say, $90 million deal, because to me that's fair. In a way, you're not underpaying him, but you're not overpaying him, but you're kind of paying him kind of in the middle. And you can maybe give him after year 2 if he wants to opt out. Then you could opt out. But if you're going to trade him, don't trade him to the Red Sox, because watch him go to the Red Sox and then be this like Hall of Fame second baseman, and we're all going to be sitting there going, "Cashman, you dumb shit." That's what's going to happen if he does it. And not only that, if you're going to trade Torres, you have to get the right pieces. Get a left fielder out of it. Get a third baseman out of it. Get a pitcher out of it. Get what you need out of this trade for Gleyber Torres. You're not going to get it all, but you got to get some of it, at least.
Yeah, if you're going to trade one of your best players, you better get guys who can play right now and not get prospects, because all prospects are just guys. You don't know what you're getting out of a prospect. You have no idea. More prospects fail than succeed, and that's just fact, because prospects are just bodies that have maybe a good stat line down in the minors, and the Yankees have shown year in, year out they don't produce down in the minors. And if their big thought process of how to improve their fucking baseball team is to teach guys in the minors how to bunt, then what are you doing? Like that, what are you doing? And it's really frustrating as a Yankee fan to go into the season already, and it's only November 11th, to go into the season already thinking they don't stand a chance next year. Like, they don't. Huh? You look right now. The teams that finish ahead of them, Baltimore is not going to get worse. They're only going to get better. Right?
No,
they're only going to get better. The Jays, that's the Jays. Who are the Jays are? They might get a little bit better. They've been talking about spending a little bit of money this offseason, because I think you're going to see Guerrero have a better year than he did last year, and the Jays were already a playoff team. So you already have 2 teams in your division that are better than you. And then Tampa's Tampa. How they do it, I have no idea, because they don't spend any money at all every year. But Tampa never wins anything, so people really got to stop jerking off the Tampa Bay Rays, because they never win anything. But you already have 3 teams in your division that are better than you on November 11th, 2023. And we're not even talking about spring training in 2024 yet. And yes, there's going to be deals that get made and everything else. But if you have to swap out your entire team to have a chance at winning a division, how bad is your team right now? And to go back to the beginning of our conversation, for Cashman to say, I think we're pretty fucking good, you're not. You 100% are not, because we just went through the lineup and we don't know who's playing in 6 positions.
No,
there it is.
And then you're talking about bringing in Kevin Kiermaier, who's been in the league how long now? Listen, this Yankee team can't get older. You have to get younger. I mean, you want to bring Kiermaier in as a guy to spell, Judge and right field for a day to play DH. Listen, that's fine. But if you're going to give Kevin Kiermaier a shit ton of money to come here, then Cashman, again, you have no clue what you're doing. You know, and that's the problem with Stanton. I had it figured out 3 years ago how you could have got rid of Stanton. And it was when the Cubs were ready to unload Yu Darvish. And it was simple. You trade Stanton to Chicago, and you would have got Jason Hayward, who now I hear that they're looking to bring in to play the outfield. He's not that young either. You could have got him, you could have got Yu Darvish, and I forget who the other guy was, and you could have got rid of Stanton and Andahar and Frazier all in that deal. And you could have told Chicago, listen, we're going to pay a quarter of this deal in Stanton. You pay the rest because we're going to have to pay Yu Darvish because you wouldn't trade for Yu Darvish if you're not going to give him an extension. And now you have the other issue with Japanese players. You have the one guy who's about to be posted. I can't even pronounce his name. I'm not even going to. But then you have the biggest Japanese free agent out there, and Ohtani, who now apparently is considering playing on the East Coast. Does Cashman just say, "Nah, we're not interested"? Yeah, you have to at least offer him something.
They got to look into it, but where do you play him? Because you're still then you got a problem. Then you're still stuck with Stanton as your DH because Ohtani isn't gonna pitch this year because of his Tommy John that he's having. So now you have $25 million on the bench because I said that 3 years ago. 3 years ago with Stanton. You probably before we even met. I talked about Stanton. This guy is going to be an albatross to the Yankees for years to come because he's a one-trick pony, and it's a bad trick. And he's not doing a damn thing now, and he hasn't done a damn thing. He had a couple of good runs there, but he hasn't done a damn thing since he got there. He can't run the bases. He looks like the Tin Man. We've talked about it before. Stanton is one of the biggest reasons why this team is failing. And it's because they got it. They got to play him. They got to play him at $25 million, whatever he's getting. You got to play him, and he's an absolute disaster. It's been a disaster since they got him.
Yeah, it absolutely has been. And you know, when the Yankees made that deal, you were hoping you got the Miami version of Stanton, and we've gotten I don't even know what version this is, but it's not a good one. And it's a deal where even if you trade him, if you don't eat half the contract, you're getting nothing in return. So you, in essence, if you want to trade Stanton, you have to eat almost all this contract now to get anything in return.
Anything.
It's one of those where Cashman, you know, it looked great when we got him. All right, we're going to get this guy who hits 50, 60 home runs a year. That's great. But the question always was, can he stay healthy? And he can't. He can't do it. He can't. He's literally running negative 5 miles an hour to get to friggin' home plate. And why are you even sending him? You know he's not making it, so just keep him there. Keep him at third.
I don't understand where this team's going. I don't understand what Cashman's got on Steinbrenner. I don't get any of it. And this team isn't getting better. They're getting worse. They're falling behind in the division. They got to do a lot more than anything. I do not know going into 2024. I hope they let us know, and I hope that the big solution to the whole thing. I hope they got more than we're going to learn how to bunt, because that's all I've heard so far is how they're going to improve this team is they're going to learn how to bunt. And if that's the solution to your problem, you might as well, like you said, we must fast forward to 2025 because it ain't getting better right now. It's not. It's an absolute disgrace. A wasted year for Judge, a wasted year for Cole. And what are you doing? Like, what are you doing as a franchise? What are you doing? Because the Rangers aren't getting worse, and they just won a world championship. The Houston Astros ain't getting worse, and they're always right there. If they could win a home game or two, the Houston Astros are in the World Series again, year in, year out. And they've traded parts and pieces away. And the Astros are still right there every year. Like, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's so frustrating to be a Yankee fan, and everybody, like, people revel in the fact that when the Yankees lose, everybody kind of, like, especially around here, they laugh at me. You get a lot more Yankee fans out your way, so you get a lot more frustrated people coming into your shop, I'm sure. But I don't know what they're doing. People ask me, and I said I don't know. I have no idea.
That's what I tell them. I just go like this. I don't know what to tell you. I said, ask the guy who's creating this fucking disaster piece in Cashman. Friggin' ask him what's going on. Don't ask me. I don't work for the Yankees. I just work for a parts company. I could tell you how they could fix the team, but they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to listen to you. And when you look at the list of free agents, Cashman's you literally have to, in essence, you have to take a flyer on every single one of them. You almost have to fix the issues here. Like if there's a young left fielder out there that you can get that could play now, if you have to overpay him by like $5 million, go fucking do it. As long as he could produce, that's all I care about. If you could find a third baseman, you have to overpay him by $2-3 million. You go do it. Even if you bring back, even though he was hurt all last year, Gio Urshela, and you know you could bring him back on the cheap because he was hurt last year.
I love
it. I would bring him back. No, they shouldn't have. But that's one of those where we wound up with friggin' the Painmaker, as I like to call him, not the Rainmaker, and fucking Josh Donaldson, which I understand.
Josh Donaldson fan club, Josh Donaldson.
I understand. I understand you had to move Sanchez because of the little issues that they had there between him, Gerard, this guy, that guy, whatever it was. But you didn't have to make Urshela the casualty in it to bring in a 36-year-old third baseman that's well past his prime.
And piss away $50 million.
You weren't willing to go after Bryce Harper. You weren't willing to pay for Bryce Harper, but you were willing to pay for Josh Donaldson. Yeah.
And doubled down on Donaldson this past offseason, saying he's the guy to help his team out. They doubled down on the way they spoke about Donaldson being the solution to the problems. He was one of the problems. $50 million.
It's atrocious. It's really atrocious because when they come out and they say we're not going to spend all this money, this isn't the way we're doing it anymore. That's fine. I understand. George was one animal. Hal's a different animal. I understand it. But then you go and you pick up this third baseman. Granted, it's a trade, but then you take the contract with it. I would have been like, listen, we're doing you a favor by getting this cancer off your team. You fucking pay this guy. Instead, no, Cashman's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. We'll pay him too. So it's like that $50 million you were paying him. You could have took that $50 million and brought in 4 guys that could have produced more than Donaldson. But you didn't do that. You invested $50 million in a 36-year-old who played how many games and then produced how many home runs and RBIs and laughs more when he strikes out than hitting home runs. It's just.
I just thought it's not what they got to do, because you have these legacy players in Judge and in Cole. You have who you're paying a lot of money to. Now you have to go and overspend to get other guys to make sure you can win a championship. So now they got to spend so much more on guys that they already have in the system. Now they got to overspend to try to replenish it, to do something to make sure you're not wasting these guys' careers. Like and Hal said, you don't have to spend $300 million to win a world championship. Well, you know what? You're going to have to, because your team stinks.
Yeah.
Your team is so bad right now. You're going to have to overspend what you wouldn't have had to 2 years ago. 2 years ago, you had a better team, and now you got to spend a whole bunch more to try to get even close to where they were 2 years ago. Like it's mind-blowing to me.
I'm even seeing people, because I don't know what Mike Trout's either going to be traded or he's whatever his situation is. And I'm seeing Yankee fans, and the Yankees Twitter group or whatever, talking about we should go out and get Mike Trout. Listen, Mike Trout's great when he's healthy. That's the key. Healthy. Because did he play? How many games did he play last year? He didn't play a lot because he was hurt too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but not very many.
I mean, that's the other key too, is when you get these guys, the training staff's got to keep them healthy, and they're doing a bad job at that. I mean, the Judge injury was a freak incident where you had Yankee fans saying the Yankees should sue the Dodgers, because
that's been there for 50 years like that.
Come on, like really, we're going to sue the Dodgers because Judge ran through a wall and stubbed his toe on concrete and it wound up breaking it, and then managed to play pretty much a majority of the season through the pain, which I'll give him credit for that. But even that, they couldn't even tell you how severe the injury was. That's just how clueless this organization is from top to bottom, where it's like, you're hearing reports, all right, he'll be back in a week. Then it's, oh no, it's 2 weeks. Then it's 3 weeks. Well, now we don't know. How do you not know? How do you not know? This is your top guy you're paying a boatload of money to. You need to know. I don't get
to
it.
get even deeper on that, Jim, and we'll get going here, but to get even deeper on that, if a big toe, think about it, a big toe, if that's a downfall of your season, that's how bad your team is, Cashman.
Yeah.
A big freaking toe. It's a very big toe on Aaron Judge. I get it. But if one big toe ruins your entire season, you're done. You're done.
Yeah. I just don't get how I just don't get how they don't see that Cashman is the head of the problem, and why you just the guy who's created the problem is the guy you're asking to fix the problem. It's just not going to, in this situation, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work to keep the guy who's made the problem worse year in and year out, and then you're asking him to fix it. You got to just, if I was Hal, that last game of the year, I would have went right to Cashman. I don't care that we just signed you to a 4-year extension. You know what? You're gone. I'll even pay you for the 4 years. You can go sit on an island somewhere, sip fucking Mai Tais, and do whatever. I don't care. But you're gone. I'm bringing in Theo Epstein, or I'm bringing in Jeter, or I'm going to bring in, GM, whoever. And they're going to replace you. And they're going to fix the problem. Boone, I'll give you 1 year under this new GM. And if it's the same result, you're gone. It's just, there's a point where Hal has to take accountability and ownership as far as him owning this team, and just finding his ball sack and just being like, I'm done with this. I can't live in a state of mediocrity, because the Yankees now are not that, they're not that franchise anymore to be afraid of. And Hal has to make them become that again. He has to create his own evil empire with his own blueprint. And I don't think he knows how to do it.
Look, I think you're going to see this, Jim. I think you're going to see it a lot. Tickets sold are going to go down because people don't, nobody ever wants to go to I know that they get a lot of tourists who go to Yankee games who come to New York. I understand that. But you're going to see a lot less tickets sold to people in New York City who are just sick of watching this team lose, because nobody goes to a game to watch their team lose. Nobody. And with the ticket price the way they are, and the chicken buckets, how much they cost, and getting a fucking beer at the stadium, how much it costs, you're going to see a lot less people going to the games. And that's when, and only then, that's when you're going to see Steinbrenner go, oh shit, we're not losing money, but we're not making as much. And that you're going to see that. You already saw it last year where the place was empty. Like, the tickets are sold is one thing. Yeah, the tickets are sold, but people want, because the things are expensive nowadays. And so if you're going to go to a game, it's going to cost you upwards of $200. We talked about this last time you were on talking the exact same thing. If you're going to get a person to spend $200, just one person, you better be putting a better product on the field than what I've been seeing the last couple of years, because that is unacceptable. What's been happening out there in New York City, it's unacceptable, and it's not like it's a toy anymore, like you have over across the city out there in Queens, where this Cone guy is just throwing money wherever, and he's developing that area now. They talked about this week what they're doing out there around Citi Field. The Yankees are a brand. But if that brand is broken, which it is, people are going to stop going. It happened in the 80s, and it happened in the early 90s. And eventually that shiny new toy, because you got a bunch of kids, and I've said this before, you got a bunch of kids who are just TikTok sensations, and all they're doing is making videos in the stands. They aren't watching the games. They don't care who wins. It's the people who are been paying for a long time, and they saw it in the 80s. And you look at those old Mattingly videos when he's up there was nobody at the old place. And if that team doesn't start winning, and doesn't start winning soon, that is the only time that Cashman is actually, or Steinbrenner, is going to see that, you know what, we have to do something, because this is broken and we're not making money, because that's all that these teams care about, these owners care about, is making money. Yeah, they say they want championships, but if you're not making money, that's what's all going to come to fruition.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, even like I get free tickets from my job, and eventually it'll just be, even if the ticket's free, I'm not going to want to go to watch a broken brand. Like I went this past year to like one or two of them, and from my perspective, it wasn't the electricity just isn't there the way it used to be, especially in the old Yankee Stadium. Like in the old Yankee Stadium, when it was a big game moment, I was afraid the stadium was going to fucking cave in. It's just lackluster. It's not even there. And me, I'm sitting there going crazy, and people are looking at me like I'm an asshole. It's like, you're a Yankee fan. Get up, get excited, do something. Like, come on. I don't care if I'm like fucking 8 beers deep in at that point. Granted, I'm the smart Yankee fan. I pregame in the parking lot, so I'm not spending.
That's the way to do it, because
I'm not spending 200-300 in there on friggin' alcohol. That's for sure.
no, it's crazy. Even when you go to before the game, if you go to a couple hours before and go to either Stan's or the Billy's or the Yankee Tavern or to the dugout across the street there, the how they can change the beer prices from like at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. How it goes from $5 a beer to $9 or $12 a beer. It's unbelievable how they get away with it. But places are semi full. But you, like I said, you go to those games, and it's more of a social event now, because the fans aren't the ones who are paying to go to these games. It's a bunch of college age kids who are there for a social scene and a party and everything else, because you don't have those diehard fans going to games anymore. And I didn't go last year, but in the years, like since I started going there in 2013, I went 7 years, then COVID and everything happened, and then I went last year, or 2 years ago, sorry. It's not the same atmosphere, obviously, because 2013 they were just off winning a championship, so they still had that luster. Mariano was still there in his last year, and Jeter and the like. So you still had the championship pedigree was still fresh in people's minds, and it's not there anymore. It's just not. And I think that the most smart Yankee fans, which you and I are, I don't know how smart we are when it comes to other things in life, but it's one of those things where the smart Yankee fan sees it and they're sick of it. They're actually sick of it, and they're going to have, like, when you have these fire Cashman nights, Al can't be that stupid. Obviously, he's not but how he's so deaf with it, I have no idea. How to be so tone deaf to your fan base that you owe everything to.
Yeah,
your dad bought that team for $10 million back in the 70s. $10 million. It's worth over how many billions of dollars now?
Yeah.
Like, how you're so tone deaf to your organization or to your fan base, I have no idea. I don't understand it.
And the fire Cashman nights. Listen, I'm trying to word this where I don't upset the sensitive Yankee fan, but you know what? I'm going to wind up doing it anyway. It's fucking stupid, because they're not listening to you. Every Yankee fan could wear a fire Cashman shirt. They could friggin' make one at home with their little cricket machine. You could have signs made up. You could do this. You could do that. Did it work? No, because Cashman's still here. So it didn't work. So their voices didn't matter. Our voices don't matter, because Hal listens to the analytics department. He listens to the other people who have a hand in bringing in money for the Yankees. And even though he should be listening to the fans, well, most of us anyway, the knowledgeable ones. But the other thing I get a lot of is, like, when we bash the Yankees, I get a lot of, well, you're sour because now they suck. Yeah, they do suck, because in the 90s, like, for my generation of Yankee fans, we got spoiled. All we knew was winning. And now, but I was born in 82. I saw the mediocre Yankees in the 80s and the early 90s before, Joe Torre inherited Buck's built team, and Cashman inherited, Gene Stick Michaels built Yankee team, because people still think that Cashman built that 90s Yankee dynasty. No, he didn't. So there's some education for you, because this was Jeter, Mariano, Pettit, all these guys were brought in before Torre was ever the manager, before Cashman was ever the
Bernie
GM.
Williams,
and now,
forgotten about, he's right there too, yeah.
And now we see what kind of GM Cashman really is. It ain't that great. Did he add pieces here and there throughout the years? Like, yeah, getting Tanaka was a great move. But even Tanaka knew this Yankee team was going nowhere. Why do you think he went back to Japan? Why do you think? Because he knew his prime was being wasted, and he was like, I can go sign anywhere else, but you know what? I'm going to go back to Japan, and I'll win there. That's what he did. And, I had a Yankee fan ask me, because now with the whole Trevor Bauer thing being over with, would you actually bring Trevor Bauer in? You want to know what? I'll be honest. Yeah. I'd bring in Trevor Bauer to be a number 3. And if he works himself up to be a 2, or even a 1A, 1B scenario with Garrett Cole, then so be it. And you don't have to pay Trevor Bauer a ton of money right now. No. You could bring him in on a 1-year, $10 million show me, and let's see what happens. The Yankees are going to have to, it's like the old saying, the biggest risk is the one you didn't take. The Yankees are going to have that type of offseason. They're going to have to take risks they normally wouldn't take, and hopefully they all pan out.
They're 100%. They're like I said earlier, they're going to have to overspend their problems.
Yeah.
Like and the free agents are going to know that because they'll say, no one else go over here. Like I already have like who is it? Is it who's the big Bellinger? Right? They're talking about him being the big free agent out there. He's going to say, okay, I'll play for $25 million over here, but to be a Yankee, you're going to pay me $32.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of those situations because the guy's already got money beyond that he's beyond he'd ever think. Right. So they're going to have to outspend their problems. And it's gotten to that point, and it's all Cashman. It's on Cashman. And how they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. That's what's troublesome to me. It's just there's definitely a lack of cohesion at the top, and it's trickling down to you and I sitting here talking about it today, and it's quite ridiculous. Let's just end this in a second here. How's your Pittsburgh Steelers are hanging in there? They're hanging in there. They're not the most electric team out there. They're not putting up big numbers, but they are playing well enough to hang around.
I don't know how they're doing it, but I don't know. I guess the football gods are looking down on them and just saying, listen, even I feel bad. You guys are stuck with this fucking Matt Canada asshole. But I mean, I got to combat that too, because I get the Yankee haters on me all the time. I get the Steeler haters on me all the time. Then I have to deal with the delusional Browns fans. I mean, I'm getting it from all angles, like Cashman at this point. But I mean, the fact that if you ended the season right now in the NFL, you have 4 teams in the AFC North making the playoffs. The Steelers right now, they're not. I hate to say it, but I can't be that guy who does podcasts that's a homer that thinks nothing's ever wrong with their teams. Because if I did that, who the hell would listen, right? The Steelers offensively are not that good. They're not. They got a lot of problems. They need to fix them. You drafted Kenny Pickett for a reason, and for people to say he's not the guy, it's only year 2. And I discussed it when I did Cigar and Sports with E-Man from Average Joe Sports. You can't determine a bust in the NFL till year 3 or 4. If it's the same nonsense from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4, then we're talking about player X, whoever it may be, being a bust. They're already saying right now in Carolina, Bryce Young's a bust. But look at Carolina. You have nobody protecting this kid. How do you expect him to survive?
Well, like there's a reason why you end up being a high draft pick, because the team that drafted you was bad.
Yeah.
Right. And it's actually it's that simple. Really good college players or junior hockey players, whatever it might be, they get drafted to bad teams because those teams were bad the year before. So one guy isn't going to fix that problem. Like, and not in one season. No, there's no way. It does. It's not the way it works that way. Like, you can't expect the Super Bowl 1 year in from a bad team to a quarterback showing up and being the next coming of Christ and changing everything for you. That's not the way football works, or any sport for that matter.
No, it doesn't. And I even talked about how maybe the NFL should change their draft process where it's not the worst team getting the number 1 pick, where you kind of go the NBA route, where you have a lottery, where you take the 10 worst teams with the worst win percentage, whatever it is, and you do the NBA lottery, and whoever gets whatever pick, then that's who gets the pick then. So if, say, you had, like this year right now, you have the Bears that suck, the Panthers that suck, the Cardinals that suck, the Packers that pretty much suck, a whole bunch of teams that really ain't that good. And you put them all in the lottery. Who's to say that if the Panthers ended the year with just 1 win, that they necessarily get the number 1 pick? They could get the 5th pick in the draft. I think it would add intrigue to the draft as it is, but I've been getting a lot of, they should just keep it the way it is. But if the NFL wants to evolve and make it a better product, because we already know what issues they have within it anyway. But that's one way to do it, where these guys actually have a shot of going to a team that's kind of already built, but they're just a player away that could be the quarterback. If you're going to draft a quarterback number 1, you better have the pieces around him to not only protect him, but guys that he could throw to. And Carolina, you have one guy that you can really throw to, and that's Adam Thielen. And he's 30-something years old. That guy's got not much left in his football career. So to sit here and say that guys like Bryce Young aren't going to make it in the NFL, you're sadly mistaken, because it's one of those where these guys that go number 1, get fucked
100%.
every time. They get
100%. Me and Dave talked about that a lot, actually, that if you win a Heisman Trophy, you should probably just stay in school, because the team that's going to draft you is going to be bad. Like that, and it's almost a kiss of death when you go to the NFL and you got a Heisman Trophy on your resume. It's like, oh Jesus, I'm going to go to a really bad team. Like you look at Caleb Williams, his dad came out, basically said, we'll see if he comes out. And there's a lot of crap that goes out with that Williams kid. He's a good quarterback, and then the Sanders kid out of with the Dion's kid, Primetime's kid there, he said he's not coming out because they know they're going to go to bad teams, right? And you can't blame them. Like, you can't blame because they get the NIL money and everything else. So you can't blame these guys to say, you know what, I'll just stick around here for another year and I'll pick and choose who I go to. And I like, pro sports is the only thing where when you're at the top of your game, when you're coming out of college or junior hockey, whatever, where you don't get to pick where you work. It's the only thing that you don't get to pick where you work. And it's almost, like you said, it's almost unfair. These guys, they end up on these bad teams, and then they lose 2 or 3 years of development because playing pro sports is a lot different than playing in college. It's just different, bigger, faster, stronger, the whole bit. And then the professional way of life and everything, like, it's just different, right? And so for these guys to not have a choice where they're going, it's pretty shitty.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and you look at the Caleb Williams situation, like when his dad came out, and his dad pretty much told him, listen, you can make more in your senior year in college because of your NIL deal than you would coming out this year. So why come out? Stay, get that 4th year, get your degree. I mean, it doesn't matter whether he comes out this year or next year, or whether Dion's kid comes out this year or next year. But the thing with Dion is, he knows if his son comes out this year, he's going either 2, 3, or 4, or whatever team needs a quarterback. Yeah. So he may not even be in the top 10 because these teams in the top 10 might already have a quarterback. So he may go even later, or not even in the first round at all. Yeah. So if I'm Dion's kid, I don't come out till next year. If I'm Caleb Williams, I stick it out in USC for another year. And that's the way you got to look at it, because especially in the NFL, it's a big gamble because the injury is always there that could end your career.
Right now.
And you see these guys that come out, like Sauce Gardner for the Jets. He came out his junior year. He went back and got his degree. You need that, because if you have an injury that takes you away from the NFL forever, you got to have a backup plan. And that's where these kids are getting smarter, as opposed to players of yesteryear like the Dan Marinos and Joe Montanas, even though they made a ton of money and are legendary quarterbacks. These kids now are smarter because they know that injury's there, so they need that backup option. And having a degree is one of them that I wish I friggin' finished college to have one, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing in life right now. But then again, I'm not an NCAA quarterback, and I don't play pro sports. So
there it is, one of those things. No, it's quite mesmerizing, like, especially with no guaranteed money, right? And that's like baseball's guaranteed money, but it takes a long time to go through the minor league, like 3 or 4 years for some of these guys, right? But NFL, you're one sack away from being done. You know, a broken leg or whatever it might be. And it happens so often. Like, so many guys are blowing their knees and their Achilles and everything this year. It's just like bang, boom, that's it, right? And it's one of those things. No, Jim, this is a great conversation. As always, talking about the Yankees, or the lack thereof the Yankees, I guess, kind of the way this turned out. But we kind of had an idea it was going to be a hashtag bash the cash kind of a day. No, thanks once again for coming on. We've got to get together
anytime,
and we'll do it. But what do you got going on there at Fan in the Van headquarters? You're a busy guy.
Tomorrow morning, me and Gary are recording Steel and Teal, probably around like 8 or 9 in the morning. So you'll get the live reactions of the Colt Patriot fucking pillow fest that'll be. Which I listened to one of the latest that you and Dave did with the whole why was the Dolphin Chief game on at 9:30 in the morning, and I totally agree with both your guys' opinions. That was one of the sexiest matchups of the week, with playoff implications, playoff seeding implications. Why is that not the Sunday night game or even the Monday night game?
Half of the country never got to see
why.
It. Like who?
No,
you got to be
at any team.
6:30 in the morning. No one in LA is getting up to watch that game. Nobody.
No. No, unless you're one of those diehards who could wake up at 6:30 and start pounding down whatever friggin' alcohol you want of choice. But
Yeah.
you could have
You're
put
back at
you
six
could have
by
put
11:30 in the morning. Yeah.
you could have put the Browns versus the Seahawks there, and you would have got a sell. You could have put us as a team there, and it would and you would have sold it out. Listen, I understand the NFL wants to expand to the European markets, and I'm all for it, but you don't have to, especially when you have teams in these playoff scenarios. Don't do it. Just don't. It's like having Colts Patriots makes sense. Both teams are mid at best, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but I don't like the NFL.
They're trying to take over the world. They don't have to. And that's they don't have to. They're big enough. They throw a lot of teams out there that are mediocre at best, and people watch. So they don't have to do that and alienate the fans they already have. And that's what I felt that they did there. No, Jim, this was fantastic. I'm gonna get out to New York next year for sure. We'll get together and we'll hoist a beer and we'll bullshit about the Yankees and complain about them. I'm quite sure the way it's all going to turn out. Thanks a lot for doing this, and we'll do it again soon. We'll have to get you on maybe in a week or so. You can join into me and Dave's "Fuck That Team" segment and talk about the NFL for one of those. Because I'm sure you'll have your "Fuck That Team" situation coming up as well. So yeah, once again, thanks for doing this and tell us about the fan of the van actually.
Well, right now I got a ton of new episodes out. I'll probably be doing another one Tuesday, like a Week 10 recap. Sure, I'll be doing some Cleveland Browns bashing as always. For those who have listened, people actually are starting to like that I do the voice impersonations a bit.
Yeah.
So I did one where Whitey Duvall from 8 Crazy Nights came on. So now I kind of incorporated that where he's kind of like the imaginary co-host. And at my job, like there's cameras all throughout my store. So I get calls every other day from the guy who watches the cameras, the security guy. He goes, "You're right." Because like the way I do it, I have a chair that spins and moves around. So like I do it where it looks like I'm looking at him, then I spin it around and then I change the voice. It's a lot of work goes into it. It's mesmerized. I actually had somebody ask me, how did I get the guy who does his voice to come in and actually do the episode? I'm like, oh my God, are you see? I go, I did the voice. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I did. It's me. Even like I had Taylor Swift on. I did like some ditzy blonde voice for it. I mean, you know what? I just got to have fun with it at this point. It's not about making money. For people who want to get into podcasting, I've discussed this at length. People think this is easy. I've had Browns fans tell me, "Oh, you do a podcast, it's easy to talk shit." It's not that easy. Believe it or not, it's not that easy to do this. Especially you. You have like 90 million shows. I'm sure it's hard for you to do it. It's it's hard to podcast. It really is. It's like another show and somebody else's internet goes down. Oh, God. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. But yeah, it is, for those who have asked me, why wait for Brent to come back on. Those who've asked me how hard it is to do podcasting, you got to come up with topics. You got to come up with, you got to come up with just a lot of things. What you're going to discuss within the topic. You got to be knowledgeable of the topics of which you discuss. Yeah, it's not easy to podcast. And, for those who stuck around to watch me and Brent bash the Yankees, if you're a Yankee fan that disagrees with it, well, then you could tell us why you disagree and why you think that Cashman's comments about the Yankees being pretty fucking good are accurate. We could tell you why you're wrong.